Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. As always, I'm Bryson Carver, and a loaded Thursday afternoon show, Thursday evening show for all of you out there. We appreciate everybody stopping by. Got a lot to talk about today. Got some NFL, some NBA, all kinds of stuff. Going to talk about LeBron and the Lakers. I'm going to kind of give an assessment of where I'm at with the Lakers, and really, I think even Laker Nation would certainly agree with me where they're as a basketball team at 13-12, only one game over 500 in their first 25. So going to talk about that. Going to talk about the greatest shooter in the history of the National Basketball Association. That would be Wardell Stephen Curry II. He is 10 threes away from passing Ray Allen for the most threes of all time, and it's inevitable. He's going to break it sometime the next 1 to 2 games or so. But I wanted to look at Steph, and not his greatness as a shooter. That's been discussed up and down for years now. His greatness as an NBA superstar, an NBA all-time great player, and where he ranks. I'm going to talk about that a little later in the show as well as Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy. You do not want to miss what I have to say about these two, or heck, even what these two said. Going to get into that later, as well as at the end of the show. Tonight, Thursday Night Football kicks off Week 14. I can't believe it this far into the season, folks. We got the Minnesota Vikings with their playoff hopes really on the line tonight. They're hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers at about 8:20 Eastern, 5:20 Pacific time on the NFL Network and Fox. Going to predict that game later in the show to kick off Week 14, like I said. But first, we can't lead the show any other way except with that Monday Night Football game. We said it was going to be the best matchup of Week 13. It was certainly not the best game, although it did come down to the wire, to the credit of the Patriots and the Bills. Got a comment already from Barry Grant Jr. All Even Podcast is back, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to my man's episode. He says, tread lightly about my Lakers. Steph is a beast. If you put Steph in the top 10, I'm going to disown you. Can't wait for a great show. Well, I appreciate you stopping by. And like I said, Barry, it is great to have you back in the podcast fold and in the sports talk fold as a whole. But the Patriots and the Bills, in life, and I've said this for, heck, the whole existence of the show, but especially in the last 6 months. Two things can be true. This isn't just true in sports or business or entertainment or science or whatever you follow or study or observe. It's true in anything. It's true in life. Two things can be true. And as I'm watching that New England Patriots Buffalo Bills game, I'll get to Buffalo in just a second, but my thinking was, okay, two things can be true. Number one, first of all, I was dead wrong on Belichick, okay? I admit. I got to give it up. I was dead wrong on Bill Belichick. I still think Brady deserves more credit for those Super Bowl runs, because Brady left in year one, won a Super Bowl in Tampa, and he's the greatest quarterback of all time. But for me to have said for months, if not years, that Belichick shouldn't be in the greatest coach ever conversation, my bad. I own up to that. That's on me. It's one of my worst takes probably of all time on this show. Right up there with the Joe Burrow take. But the first thing that can be true is that Belichick put on a defensive coaching clinic on Monday night against a Buffalo offense that's, yes, inconsistent, but at home, an extra day to prepare. Heck, actually an extra 4 days to prepare. Think about it. Buffalo's coming off the Thanksgiving win over New Orleans. They put up 31 on a really good Saints defense. Josh Allen's balling, and Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders and the whole crew, right? And this defense, though it lost Tre'Davious White, I said before the game, the Tre'Davious White loss for the Bills is huge, but it would not show itself on Monday night because of the weather conditions, right? You weren't going to need him quite as much. Well, turns out you really didn't need him at all. Because the second thing that can be true is Mac Jones is not a franchise quarterback. I can't believe I'm actually about to read these stats. 2 for 3. 19 yards. A QBR, 0 to 100. QBR of 4. So let that sink in for a minute. A QBR of 4. 2 for 3 for 19 yards. In the first quarter of that game, the Patriots had the ball, first drive of the game. They're going into the wind, right? They're going into the wind, and so they're running the ball out. And the Patriots are a really good running team. I mean, that Ramondre Stevenson kid is really good, and I don't know why his name isn't at least being discussed a little bit for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's having a great rookie season, right? Damian Harris out of Alabama, he's doing his thing as well. That's a great Patriots offensive line. David Andrews is one of the more underrated offensive linemen in the game. I saw him before warmups, got the sleeveless. Offensive linemen are just built different, man. But the Patriots are a good running team. And so they're going into the win. So it's like, yeah, of course, they're gonna run the ball, right? And I know I always watch the Peyton and Eli broadcast when they're on ESPN too. I love those guys. And so they're talking about, they say, okay, Mac Jones, Patriots offense, they're going into the win. It's like, okay, they're going to hand the ball off. And you see Mac Jones threw that one pass, which Josh McDaniels did not want him to throw. Mac checked out of the play, and Jonnu Smith made a heck of a catch for that first down on the 12-yard pickup. But after the first quarter, you see Mac Jones go to the sideline, warm up, right? Because he hasn't thrown the ball the whole quarter, basically, except once. So he's going over there. He's warming up as the field position or field direction is about to switch. The wind's going to be at their back. And he didn't throw a pass until the fourth quarter. Yeah. Two things can be true. Bill Belichick put on a coaching clinic. By the way, not against a poorly coached team either. Sean McDermott, I've sung this man's praises over and over. This guy's as good as it gets. He took a Buffalo Bills team that was the epitome of mediocrity for the better part of the last 15 years and turned it into a Super Bowl contender within 3. So credit to him. He's a great coach. And it wasn't even a contest between he and Belichick, right? Bill did an amazing job. Mac Jones is not a franchise quarterback. He's a backup. I've seen plenty of games with average quarterbacks where the weather's cruddy, it's raining or it's snowing or it's windy or whatever. And quarterbacks are throwing more than 3 times. I'm not talking about your superstars. I'm not talking about Brady, Rodgers, and Russell Wilson. No. I'm talking about average quarterbacks. And Belichick didn't throw the ball more than 3 times. Barry says Palpatine. He calls him Emperor Palpatine. He kind of does look like Emperor Palpatine under that hoodie. Palpatine lives, Bryson. He's a once-in-a-lifetime coach. I got to give it up. I don't disagree with you. Can you blame this on Mac or the Bills' game plan? Well, let's be real about this here. Yes, the Patriots ran for 222 yards on 46 carries. They had one big run the whole night. One big run, and that broke it open. They went for 2 and got it. That was it. That was all they got offensively. They had another big run after that. After that, it was a little. Again, they averaged 4.8 yards a carry. That's good, but take away those other gains, what do you have? Like when you saw that one run get out the gates, it's like, dang, what's Buffalo doing? After that, they pretty much shut New England's offense completely down. I think they missed their last 7 third downs. When you've got a 3rd and 8, the wind's at your back, you're not going to throw it? Buffalo, at any chance, Buffalo had two red zone chances at the end of the game. And actually, back-to-back drives, poor decisions by Josh Allen. The first red zone trip in the fourth quarter, Josh Allen's trying to do too much and gets sacked, and they end up missing the field goal because the wind was so bad, right? Then the last drive, of course, we all saw the play. He missed Cole Beasley wide open over the middle. Either he missed him or he was trying to get the ball to somebody else. I don't know what happened. I don't know if the wind played factor, but it was a bad decision or a bad throw, one of the two. Like, Josh Allen did not play well. I'm not going to defend Josh Allen at all. John, shout out to him, Fan Perspective Podcast. He said, Pats were just the best team last night. I can't argue with that. They were the better team on that football field. And this is without question. Sorry, Kansas City. Sorry, Baltimore. Who's the other division I'm missing? AFC West, AFC. Sorry, Tennessee, Indianapolis. That's the best team in the AFC. It's obvious. That's the best team in the AFC. But their fate is going to be decided by that quarterback position. You can't do this in playoff games. You could maybe do it in one playoff game if you get lucky, if the elements are not on your side. You can't do this in 2-3 playoff games in a row. So right now, this is the best team in the AFC. I can't deny it. They've won 7 straight. They're 9-4. They got the number 1 seed as of right now. That's the best team in the AFC. That's the best coach team in the AFC. And any other name for coach of the year that isn't Bill Belichick is wrong. I mean, it is. It's just wrong. Belichick is coach of the year and Brady's MVP. You know what? What do they say, man, right? The more things change, the more they stay the same. Brady's the front runner for MVP. Belichick's the front runner for coach of the year. Although maybe you can make an argument for Cliff Kingsbury, but he's working with a lot more than what Belichick's working with. I mean, Belichick's working with Kendrick Bourne and Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry and N'Keal Harry, who's a complete bust, and Mac Jones. And at least Cliff Kingsbury had DeAndre Hopkins for most of the season, Kyler Murray for most of the season. Right, he's got so many playmakers on that defense. Heck, Colt McCoy did a great job as the backup. Like if Mac Jones got benched and Brian Hoyer came in, I don't think the Patriots' offensive game play would change one iota. And that's what I said about him coming into the league. He's nice. He's a decent quarterback. He's a backup. He's a backup quarterback. And so that's kind of my takeaways. That two things can be true. Bill Belichick put on a clinic, and Mac Jones is a backup quarterback. No starter throws for three. I mean, think about this. The last time an NFL quarterback played the whole game and completed 2 passes was the 1970s, the early 1970s. So Buffalo, if anything, should be like, dang, opposing quarterback threw 3 passes and we still lost. They could look at it from that perspective. By the way, that reporter after that game talking to, I think it was Micah Hyde, about, are you embarrassed? It's like, what the heck kind of question's that? I mean, what was that? Come on. John Jones says, neutral field, I'd take KC over the Pats. I mean, if you're talking about a playoff game, yeah, I'm taking Kansas City any day, any night of the week for 2 reasons. Number one, Andy Reid is one of the few coaches that usually gives Belichick fits. I mean, he always has. And then you add to it, playoff games, they come down to the quarterback position. Mahomes isn't playing well right now, but are you kidding me in that department? So, yeah, I agree with you. If you're talking about a regular season game, I'd probably take New England. But chips pushed to the middle of the table, I'm taking Kansas City. Close, but I'd take Kansas City. My man Ryan Flowers, shout out to him, Clutch Sports Talk. Check out his show. He says Patriots really got their running game going. They have. And that's really been the identity of their, at least of their offense, but of their team as a whole. It reminds me a little bit, although Russ had more of a role in the offense, but it reminds me a little bit of the Seattle Seahawks of the early to mid 2010s, right? When you had running game with Marshawn Lynch, beast mode, and then defensively, you got the Legion of Boom. Now, this Patriots defense isn't as good as the Legion of Boom defense of Seattle, but man, it's the best defense in the league. I mean, you could put Green Bay in there, you could put Arizona. It's the best defense in the league, in my view. So, there's a lot. Ryan disagrees. He says, I'm taking the Patriots if they are at home. That defense is legit. No question about it, man. Like I said, that defense is going to give any offense in the world a lot of problems. A lot of problems. Except Dak Prescott. He dropped 35 in the game when he touchdown. But that's neither here nor there. What's this got to do with Dak? Come on, Bryson. What are you doing? All right, let's talk a little bit about and John says, yeah, and they have a great change of backs. And that's the thing. They got the running back by committee, right? They got Damian Harris and they got Ramondre Stevenson. And so that's really gotten it done very well, keeping both guys fresh. Neither's really what you would call like a bell cow back, like a Derrick Henry, for example, where you can just feed him over and over and over. You get to interchange them. They're fresh and they're ready to go. And it's really, really tough for defenses to stop. It really is. So major credit to what they're doing. Let's talk a little bit about the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, the Lakers, as it stands right now, they got I guess I could call it, it's an impressive win. It's an NBA game. These are NBA players. Pretty impressive win over the Boston Celtics on Tuesday night, if I'm not mistaken. Tuesday night, they beat the Celtics at home in what is about to be called Crypto.com Arena. I saw they removed the Staples Center logo from outside. It's like, dang. Like, Crypto.com Arena. Wow. That's terrible. But as it stands right now, the Lakers are 13-12, and they are the 6th seed. So they're just a hair outside the play-in. I don't think they're going to be in the play-in. I'll say that first of all. as crowded as the West is, in between the middle where you got your Denvers and you got your Clippers and Utah. Utah's better than those teams, but it's just kind of Memphis kind of clumped up in the middle. Lakers will have to play in the play-in. I'm not worried about that. But the first order of business is the Lakers are an average basketball team. Listen, in December, that can be fixed. If we're saying the Lakers are an average basketball team in March or April, okay, that we got problems. They can't contend for a championship if they're average, obviously. Like you always talk about, I know Tom Landry said it in football, and it applies to really any sport. Like, you want to get hot the last month of the season. Tom Landry said that championships are won in December. In baseball, championships, they say, are won in September. Or in basketball, you could say maybe post All-Star break. But when you look at all this, what made the Lakers so dominant that championship-winning season? Yes, they had LeBron James at the tail end of his prime, still playing as good of basketball as he's ever played. Yes, you had Anthony Davis, without a doubt, playing the best basketball he's ever played. And I'll get to AD in just a second. But the core of that team was defense. That's what it was. And you saw that a little bit in the third quarter against the Celtics on Tuesday night. Jason Tatum, went crazy in the first quarter. And it's like, oh, here we go. They're going to give up a big game again. But the last, second quarter and third quarter, they gave it 42 points combined. That's pretty good, right? And they built that lead. They got going offensively. LeBron played really well. And by the way, LeBron's last 5 games, he's really looking like an MVP caliber type of player, which he's been really for the vast majority of his career. But that's the thing about the Lakers. They're not good defensively. And to me, that points back to Frank Vogel to a certain degree. Yes, the roster's old. And I said the roster was old before anybody else did. I said, this isn't going to work. This is not a title team because the roster is old as dirt. Matter of fact, it's the oldest roster in NBA history. I've repeated that a million times. And so that's contributed a little bit, at least, to the struggles defensively. But for Frank Vogel, defense is your calling card, buddy. Like, this is where you've made your money. And it goes back also to the criticism that has always been of Frank Vogel. He's not good at managing rotations. I mean, he's had stretches where he's played Westbrook and Rondo together, and he's had AD and Dwight playing together. It's like, what are you doing? These pieces don't fit. The team doesn't fit as a whole. But some of the signings, like Malik Monk, I said back in July or August, whenever free agency was, I said, I like the Malik Monk signing. Like, that one works. He's a shooter. LeBron loves shooters. That's a perfect fit, and he's done really good things in the purple and gold. Melo, I thought would be a decent fit. He's been better than I thought he would be. Melo's been really good. But you look at this team, it's like it doesn't fit. The defense is average. The title winning team in 2020, number 1 defense in the NBA. That's what's going to get it done. What was the criticism of those Rockets teams that couldn't get past Golden State? What was the deciding factor in those series? Both teams could score at a high level. They could go blow for blow offensively. Houston couldn't get stops. Golden State could. Okay, Golden State won. It's cliche, but defense still does win championships. It does. Got a few comments here. Ryan says, Lakers need bubble AD. Bubble AD is really the last great AD we've seen. I mean, it is. I hope this isn't the case, because thus far it's really looking like it. I hope AD isn't one of those players that you're like, oh my gosh, this guy could be like a first ballot Hall of Famer. He could win multiple MVPs. He could win a lot of championships. And then once he gets his money, that's like the last you see of them, at least in their greatest stage. Barry talks about AD. He says, Anthony Davis is the problem. He was able to hide in New Orleans. Now you're on the biggest stage in basketball. Your flaws are exposed and you cannot hide. Overrated. The Lakers pay for a number 1 and are getting a number 3 with cheese. I mean, I gotta be real with y'all. Russell Westbrook's been the second best player on this team. Russ has been better than AD. And Russ has had some games where I'm like, oh, there he is. He's showing his ugly head again. But then there's nights like recently, Russ has been playing pretty well. Like, Russ and LeBron seem to mesh a little bit. And AD wants nothing on the low block. He doesn't want any part of that low block. And he's got the body to be the best center in the game. You look at Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic, people debate who's the better center between those two. AD could be better than both if he wanted to be. If he truly had that drive, that heart, he could be better than those two if he wanted to be. And so this year, injuries hasn't really been the issue with AD. It's, are you ready for the spotlight? Because let's be real. If there's no COVID, how many times that question been asked? But if there's no COVID and the playoffs happen just as usual in 2020, does AD give us the same production in the playoffs as he did in the bubble? Like in the, I don't want to say real playoffs because that was a playoffs, and I don't want to like diminish the championship because I don't put asterisks next to championships. I don't do that. But can AD handle that pressure? We'll see this year. Because last year, the Lakers, they didn't get much of an offseason. LeBron clearly was not 100%. AD dealt with injuries. He got hurt in Game 4 of that series against Phoenix, and they just kind of fell apart from there. Well, if they go into the playoffs even relatively healthy, if they got their big three, floor is yours, Anthony Davis. Do you want it? Because the notion, and I push back against this notion, I didn't get it. I did not get it last year when this sort of narrative was coming around after the Lakers won that championship. AD got his money, and it's like, okay, it is official. AD is like the face of the franchise now. LeBron's getting older. At the time, he was about to turn 36 years old. Now he's about to turn 37. And it was going to be, okay, LeBron's still going to be the best player, but slowly but surely he's going to pass the baton to AD, and he's going to lead the team. I'm like, no, he's not. First of all, he's not a natural leader. Not to the extent that like Kawhi Leonard is or James Harden. But Anthony Davis is not a natural leader. LeBron is. Steph is. Giannis is. Jimmy Butler is. Chris Paul is. Damian Lillard is. Anthony Davis is not. And so when I looked at that, I was like, dang, do you really think this guy's going to lead you to multiple championships? I mean, lead you. He didn't lead the Lakers to that championship. LeBron did, and it was a collective effort by the Lakers. They played their best basketball at the best possible time, and that's why they became champions. So that's the thing. And Barry's got a really good question. Barry's a Lakers fan, for those of you that don't know. He says, do you think LeBron trusts AD? I don't know. I think you really find out about trust in any sport, by the way, the last month of the season. So from mid-March to wherever you end up in the playoffs, however your playoff run ends, whether it's with the championship or whether it's out in the first round, from like mid-March to the end of your season, that's when you know, okay, we're going to go to him in these spots, him in these spots, him in these spots. And your leader makes that decision most of the time. I mean, we see, you saw like Tom Brady, for example, last year with the Bucs. He built a rapport with Gronk again. Like Gronk didn't have a great 2020 regular season. In that big third down or in the red zone, who did Tom Brady go to? He went to Gronk. It's not to say Gronk's necessarily better than Mike Evans, who played well in the playoffs, or Chris Godwin. The same can be said about him. But Tom knows Gronk. He's like, okay, I've gone to this guy a million times, and he's always come through for me. I'm going to him. When's AD ever come through for LeBron? It's usually been the other way around. The answer to that question, Barry, is I don't know. I don't know. I think the better question is, who does LeBron trust more, Westbrook or Anthony Davis? That's an even better question because, I mean, that if you can figure that one out, then props to you, because I can't. I think LeBron trusts Melo, honestly. I think LeBron James trusts Carmelo Anthony, and that's about it. I think he trusted Caruso until he bolted for Chicago, who, all of a sudden looks like they could be in the Eastern Conference Finals if they keep up what they're doing. But I think that's the reality where the Lakers are at right now. They're an average basketball team. The great Bill Parcells once said, you are what your record says you are. Well, 13-12, more wins than losses. They're going to get hot at some point this year. They're going to have a stretch where they win 5, 6, 7 straight games. I don't worry about that. But when it's time, can you get stops? Well, right now, no. Does LeBron have a second star that he can consistently trust in the biggest moments? Right now, I haven't seen it. And do they have the bodies Those legs get tired. We won't know that until the playoffs. But again, it's an old roster, oldest roster of all time. Do we trust the coach? I mean, I like Frank Vogel. He's a head coach in this league. But he struggled with rotations. And now his calling card defense, he's struggling with that. We often see in a lot of sports, whatever your calling card is, your specialty as a coach, if that begins to struggle, they give you the boot. You're gone. So I think we'll find out over the next month and a half or so, probably post MLK Day, whether Frank Vogel will be the coach the rest of the season. I mean, we'll see. I'm 50-50 on it right now. I don't think he's the main issue. I don't think there is a main issue. I think it's death by 1,000 cuts. Old roster, not great defensively. The head coach struggles with rotations. And the guy who, frankly, forget second best player, Anthony Davis should be the best player on this team. He's the only guy of the big three that should be still in their prime. He's 27, 28 years old. LeBron's about to be 37. Like he can't give you he's still great. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's still top 3, top 4 player in the world. But he can't give you the same production that he could even 3-4 years ago. He's getting older, Father Time's undefeated, and Russell Westbrook is what, 34-ish? You know, he's getting older too. AD should be the best player on his team. He's not. And he's struggling. He's shooting like sub 20% from 3. Now he's struggling from the free throw line. That's been the biggest, shock to me, because that championship winning season, I mean, when the Lakers are up 2 points, 10 seconds left, and AD gets fouled, you just know he's stepping that free throw line. Nothing but net on both free throws, and the game's basically over. You could trust AD to make free throws, especially clutch free throws. You can't trust him to make any free throws right now. This team's got a lot of issues. And like I said, I mean, to me right now, there are 3 teams that I can unequivocally say are better than the Lakers out west. Golden State, nobody's arguing that. Phoenix, nobody's arguing that. They beat the Lakers by like 40 points when they played earlier this season. Then lastly, Utah. Now, do I trust Utah more than the Lakers in the playoffs? No. But it goes back to, I think New England's a better team than Kansas City, but head-to-head in a playoff game, I'm taking Kansas City. Head-to-head in a playoff series, I'm going to take the Lakers over the Jazz. But right now, at best, in the most optimistic way possible, they're the 4th best team in the Western Conference. And out east, there's more title contenders out east right now. Let's be real about it. You got Brooklyn. You got Chicago now. You've got Milwaukee, obviously the defending champs. You've got Miami, who could possibly make a run. Miami beat Milwaukee last night. I mean, even Washington's viable. Philadelphia, I don't think, is a championship team unless they trade for another star. But they still got Joel Embiid. Out west, there's a lot of good teams. So if anything, this should be the wide open window for the Lakers. You've got like 2 legit championship contending teams that you're going to have to go up against to go for the title in 2022. Phoenix, Golden State. And both teams are right now absolutely unequivocally better than the Lakers in coaching, in defensively. Obviously, Golden State, I think, is the best defensive team in the league. The rosters fit together better. That's what the Lakers are at. John just says, Bron, don't trust anyone. He may not. Of course, I don't know, John. I mean, you're a Melo fan. I think he trusts Melo. I mean, I really do. I think there's a reason LeBron called Melo and said, hey, I think Carmelo told the story this offseason. LeBron called him and said, man, let's make it happen. Let's do it. We've waited too long. Let's play together. For 19 years, same draft class. We've been friends for years. Let's make it happen. I think LeBron trusts Melo. In his role, obviously. But outside of that, you may have a compelling point. Malik Monk, to my knowledge, has never been in a playoff game. Dwight Howard has, but Dwight Howard's 36? He's about LeBron's age and has not aged like LeBron. You've got DeAndre Jordan, who didn't play a second in the playoffs last year. You got Rondo. Yeah, but playoff Rondo, that's 2008, 2009, 2010 Rajon Rondo. Even 2020, he was really good for the Lakers. Probably their 3rd best player in the finals. But Rondo's done. I mean, he's done. You saw what you saw last year with the Clippers. He got multiple DNPs when their roster was falling apart, and he still wasn't playing. And AD and Westbrook, I don't know. I don't even know if he trusts the head coach. So you make a good point, John. Now shifting to the team that's the best in the world, at the very least in the Western Conference, if not the NBA. I think they are the best team in the NBA, and that would be the Golden State Warriors. My Golden State Warriors. And let's talk a little bit about their best player, guy who I think right now is the best player in the world and has been for a year or so, Steph Curry. So it's funny, last night, and I even made the bold prediction on Twitter that he's going to go get the record, Ray Allen's record, and simultaneously break Clay's record for the most threes made in a single game. And he, of course, did not do that. He went for it. ESPN, Roz Golden, one day, the reporter, she said, he told me he's going to go for it. Well, he went 0 for his first 4, and you're kind of like, okay, he's going to make some tonight, but he's not going to get the record. At least, on Wednesday night in their win last night over the Blazers, 104-94. But the thing about Steph, we know he's going to break the record in the next 2 games. And by the way, before I get into anything about Steph's legacy or anything like that, I want to say this. If he doesn't break the record Saturday night, which he very well could, we've seen Steph hit 10 threes numerous times. He could very easily do that. And it'd be cool too, because he'd do it against his brother Seth, which would be kind of awesome. But if Steph doesn't break it Saturday night, I'm going to go ahead, just so I have it on record. Steve Kerr, nothing against Pacer fans. Nothing. Pacer fans are great. Sit Steph Curry for Indiana on Monday. Let him go break the record at Madison Square Garden the following night on Tuesday. For 3 reasons. Number 1, it's Madison Square Garden. It's the Mecca. I mean, come on. It's the most iconic arena in the NBA. Number 2, you got the fact that Steph's first breakout game in the NBA was where? Madison Square Garden, 2013. 54 points, 11 made threes. That was kind of the not allow me to reintroduce myself, Jay-Z public service announcement. But it was kind of his, okay, all right, he's it. This kid's it, right? And then thirdly, sort of to rub it into Knicks fans, Steph was going to be drafted by the Knicks, 8th overall in the 2009 draft, and here come the lowly Golden State Warriors who swoop in and steal him with the 7th overall pick. And of course, the fortunes of those 2 franchises have went in completely opposite directions since then. So if he doesn't break it Saturday, let him break it on Tuesday against the Knicks. Steve Kerr, sit him against Indiana. First of all, it's a back-to-back on the road. Like, no offense, Pacer fans. Nobody cares about the Pacers. Even if the Knicks are the worst team in the league, people are always going to care about the Knicks. It's the same with the Lakers. People are always going to care about the Lakers. So that's got to happen. But Steph, long-term, we know he's the greatest shooter ever. That got decided like 5 years ago with that shot right there against OKC. That nobody's really talking about that anymore. But as far as where he's never going to be the greatest player ever. I'm not going to go out. I'm a Steph fan. Steph's the reason I started even watching basketball. I'm not going to go out full blasphemy and say he's the greatest player of all time or is going to be. He's not going to be. But as far as his legacy right now, and then I'll go long term, right now, where does he rank? Because this summer, and I did it last summer as well, I did my top 10 players of all time. And off the top of my head, I'll go 1 to 10. I think it went Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I don't think you can really argue with those 3. Whatever order you have them in, those are the 3 best players ever. I mean, you look at their resumes, it's insane. I went Kobe Bryant at 4. Rest in peace, Kobe. I went Magic Johnson 5. I think I went Tim Duncan 6. Larry Bird 7. Wilt Chamberlain 8. Shaq 9. Bill Russell 10th. And honest, out of respect for the great Bill Russell, I'm always going to have Bill Russell in the top 10. He's got 11 rings. I can't argue with that. He's got it. By the way, he was one of the best shot blockers. I don't think they even tracked block shots back in the 50s and 60s. Had they have tracked them, Bill Russell would have been up there without a doubt. But that's my top 10. So right now, Steph's not in that 10 right now. But when you look at that kind of 11 through 15 category, you're talking about guys like Oscar Robertson. You're talking about Hakeem Olajuwon. I think you could even talk about Kevin Durant in that category. So when you step back and look at it, where's Steph? I think Steph right now, he's at 12. To me, he's ahead of KD, and here's why. Here's why he's ahead of Kevin Durant. Because people might say, well, KD was the best player on the Warriors when he was there. Yeah, he was. Steph, Clay, Steve Kerr, they acknowledged as much. Not specifically that he was better than Steph, but that he was the best player on the team, so obviously he's better than Steph. But all time, there's, like I always talk about, better and greater, there's two different things. Aaron Rodgers is better than Tom Brady. He's better. He's more talented. Dan Marino's better than Tom Brady. But greater, that's talking about something different. That's not just talent-based. That's why we don't call Tom Brady the best quarterback of all time. We call him the greatest quarterback of all time, the GOAT, not the boat, right? You know, throwing trophies off boats. We don't call him that. We call him the GOAT. Because greatness is talking about intangibles, leadership, okay, championships, accolades. That's greatest. Steph is greater than KD because he has one more MVP. Oh, by the way, that MVP was unanimous. That's never been done before. Not by Jordan, not by Shaq, not by Kareem, not by anybody. Steph's the only guy that's done that. Unanimous MVP. It's never been done before. Steph has one more MVP than KD, and one of them was unanimous. Secondly, he's got one more championship. And not only that, KD's 2 championships came with Steph, and KD hasn't won any champion. It's not a knock against KD. KD's amazing. I love KD. But KD's never won any championships without Steph, and he's had his opportunities. He had Steph down 3 games to 1 in 2016 and blew it. It's kind of like when people are talking about, and I was on that train too, Steph's better than LeBron in 2016, and then Steph had LeBron down 3-1, and LeBron led the Cavs back. Don't remind me. And so I was like, okay, yeah, LeBron's the best player in the world. KD had Steph down 3-1, and he blew it. It's not my opinion. It's reality. He blew a 3-1 lead to the Warriors. John John's got a, looks like a, I don't know if that's wine. Is that a wine emoji? I guess it is. Maybe saying that he's aging like fine wine. I think. I don't know. That's cool though. But I think with Steph, he's above KD for that reason. And number 3, the reason he's above KD, he changed the way a sport is played. To me, KD, like I talked about what Steve Kerr said about KD is that he's a more gifted scorer than Michael Jordan. And I'm like, I totally agree with Steve Kerr. KD can do anything he wants offensively. But he didn't change basketball. Steph changed basketball, how it is played. He changed how AAU is played. He changed how college is played. He changed high school. Everything. Steph changed how an entire sport's played from the NBA on down to Pee Wee. You see like 7-year-olds chucking threes from like almost half court. It's like, guys, you're not Steph. Start in the paint, right? But that's what he's done. You see what Trae Young coming to the league doing. Damian Lillard didn't shoot 40-footers. Let's be real, until Steph started doing it. Okay? So that's the 3 reasons he's above KD. Hakeem, man, it's neck and neck. I'm going to give Hakeem the slight nod at 11. Right now, to me, Steph Curry is the 12th best player in NBA history. And so long-term, Steph today is the Vegas favorite to win MVP. Today, Steph is the favorite to win his 3rd MVP. And the Warriors, I don't think they're favored in Vegas, but certainly they've got as good a shot as anybody to win the championship next year. I said before the season started that they were going to. By the way, they haven't even gotten Clay back. You just wait. But if Steph were to win an MVP and another championship, and let's say he wins the finals MVP, his first finals MVP, that's like the one kind of hole in his resume is like, he doesn't have a finals MVP. Well, say he gets that along with the regular season MVP this year. Now we got a conversation. Now where does he rank? Because you'd be talking about a guy, like if I told you, okay, there's this guy who's going to win 4 championships, win 3 MVPs. One of those MVPs is going to be unanimous. You'd say, oh, he's like probably one of the 6 or 7 greatest players ever. To me, you put Steph over Bird. Bird didn't accomplish what Steph did if Steph does what he does this season, what he's capable of doing this season. I'm not saying right now, but I'm saying if Steph wins a regular season MVP and a finals MVP, I'm putting him over Bird. I'm putting him over Shaq. Shaq's a bet one-on-one. Shaq would probably beat Steph. Because Steph, nobody could stop Shaq down low. You think little 6'2", 6'3" Steph, 180, 90 pounds is going to stop Shaq? Obviously not. But again, greater. That's different. And so I think it puts, I'm always going to keep Bill Russell in the top 10 out of respect to Mr. Russell. But Steph goes over Shaq. Steph goes over Bird, and Steph goes over Wilt. Wilt put up video game numbers. Heck, those aren't even video games numbers. You can't even do the numbers that Wilt Chamberlain put up. You can't put up those numbers in 2K if you were on rookie mode, right? Where it's just you can score anytime you want. You still can't do what Wilt did. I mean, it's unbelievable. You see the numbers that this guy put up every night. I think he had a season where he averaged like, what was it? He averaged like 40, 50 points a game. It's like, this is ridiculous. But Wilt did not have the impact on winning as Steph. By the way, Steph's the Warriors' all-time leading scorer, not Wilt. He was Wilt until Steph about 6 months or so ago broke it, or 8 months ago broke his record. So I think Steph, MVP in the regular season, Finals MVP, I think he's the seventh greatest player in NBA history. The only guys I put above him are Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, Kobe, Magic, and Duncan. People don't give enough credit to Tim Duncan, man. That guy was amazing. That's where I put him. That's exactly where I put him in all time. But today, I got him at about 12, maybe 11. I mean, it's a tug of war between he and Hakeem. Not a little tug of war because Hakeem would obviously win that. But that's the thing. That's that in itself right there, right? That Shaq would bully Steph down low, Hakeem would win in a tug of war. That, I think, is why Steph, at times, it feels like he hasn't gotten the respect that he feels he deserves. Because he's slight. Now, he's put on some muscle, clearly, since he was a rookie. He's put on a ton of muscle. You see his shoulders are much bigger than they were. But you see, he goes in the paint more than he used to. But Steph's slight, 6'2", maybe 6'3", in shoes. Looks like a kid. He's not intimidating by any stretch of the imagination like a LeBron or a Giannis. He's kind of corny, right? But when you look at this, what this man's accomplished and what this guy's done for the game of basketball, few players can say that they've done for the game and to the game what Steph has. So, put in finality right here. Today, first of all, today Steph's the best player in the world. But today, Steph Curry, 12th best player ever, maybe 11, right in that area, just outside the top 10. And if he wins a regular season MVP and a finals MVP this season, he's absolutely the seventh greatest player of all time. No doubt about it. That's where I'm at. Let's move on. Oh, Lord have mercy. Let's move on to the Dallas Cowboys. Oh, my goodness. I was dreading this topic. I tried to postpone this as long as I could until the Vikings Steelers prediction, which stay for the end of the show. I'll predict that. But the Dallas Cowboys in the last 24 hours have exhibited exactly why I've never trusted them. By the way, I'm a Cowboys fan only because of Dak Prescott. If Dak Prescott, I said that all of last year. If Dak Prescott left tomorrow to go to Chicago, I'm a Chicago Bears fan, so I'm not loyal to the Cowboys. I'm loyal to the quarterback. Who, by the way, congratulations, Dak Prescott and the other 31 nominees for the other 31 NFL teams for being nominated for this year's Walter Payton Man of the Year award. Shout out to Dak. Shout out to the other 31. Shout out to even the guys that weren't nominated that are doing unbelievable work in their communities. But Dak specifically, we all know about, he's talked about his battle with depression, anxiety, and his mental health, since the passing of his brother last year. Obviously, his whole career, he's put a ton of money into cancer research. Of course, we all know he lost his mom in college to colon cancer. As well as fighting for social justice. I mean, he's as good of a guy as it gets. So I'm genuinely happy to see Dak nominated. And, obviously, I'd love to see him win the award, but, whoever wins the award is more than deserving. So shout out to all of them. But again, that's the only reason I even, root for the Dallas Cowboys at this point. But in the last 24 hours, like I said, and it's ironically, it's the two people who I said going back, I remember this in week 2. Remember when they beat the Chargers in that wild game at SoFi Stadium when Dallas won in that walk-off field goal and Mike McCarthy had the bad clock management in the whole 9 yards? And I said, that guy and the guy upstairs, Jerry Jones, those are going to be the reasons that this Cowboy team does not win a championship or doesn't get to where they're supposed to be because of their roster. Let's start with Jerry Jones, shall we? So Jerry Jones, he's confident, right? He's confident going the game. Mike McCarthy is more confident, but starting with Jerry Jones, in he was interviewed on 105.3 The Fan on the show Shan and RJ. Give a little, I guess, promotion to them. But Jerry Jones, like all owners do, did his weekly radio appearance. I think he does like 1 to 2 interviews a week on Dallas radio. Again, no owner does this. Heck, I don't even know if general managers do this, and Jerry does it. So I want you to listen to the question. I don't have the soundbite. I have the Mike McCarthy soundbite, but I don't have the Jerry one. But the question was, is Dak Prescott 100% healthy? Okay, that's a good question, right? Because Dak's dealt with the shoulder issues back going to training camp. He had the calf injury on the game-winning touchdown against New England, and he had to miss the Minnesota game. And so, and he's had some great performances like against the Raiders and against the Falcons. He's had some good performances like against the Saints, and he's had some bad performances like against Denver and to a certain degree against Kansas City. So it's like he's been a little inconsistent these last few weeks. And so, is Dak Prescott 100% healthy? That's the question that was asked on Jerry's radio appearance. I want you to listen to Jerry's answer. I'll give it to you verbatim. Quote, yes. The thing that you're seeing is sometimes the pass looks errant is because the receiver, for instance, ran the route 2 yards, cut it off 2 yards shorter. He should be out 2 more yards before he makes his cuts. It can make all the difference in the world as far as his ability to separate. It has the relativeness to the other receivers. And so you're not really crisp on the way the play was designed relative to how many yards you go, the cut. Then your passing game can look really off. That's one of the answers. Better routes. They didn't, first of all, that didn't even answer the question. They asked about Dak's health, not his play on the field. Now, his health somewhat implies just play on the field. What does this have to do with the receivers? How does Dak Prescott's health lead to the receivers are running the wrong routes? What is this? Even if it's true, which I don't think it is, but even if it's true, why would you say this? Because now what you're going to do is you're going to create a little bit of distrust, if not a lot of distrust in that locker room. Because Jerry's always been a football fan. He played at the University of Arkansas with his teammate Jimmy Johnson. It was coached by a guy who ultimately became a Super Bowl winning head coach for his team, Barry Switzer. Jerry knows football. He does. I'm not going to discredit and say, this guy don't know what he's talking about. But that's the answer like a coach gives you in a film session. And so the receivers, the Amari Coopers and the CeeDee Lambs and the Michael Gallups and the Noah Browns and Cedric Wilsons and the Malik Turners of the world are going to be kind of looking side-eye at Mike McCarthy or of Kellen Moore, their receivers coach, and saying, "Do you tell Jerry this?" Doug Nussmeier, if I'm not mistaken, I think is the quarterback's coach. They're going to be looking at him. Did you tell Jerry this? Jerry got this from a coach. There's no question. He could have got it from Mike McCarthy. He could have gotten it through the OC, Kellen Moore. And so players, receivers specifically in that locker room can be like, who said this? Okay. Jerry didn't get that complex of an answer all by himself. Someone in this locker room wearing Dallas Cowboys gear from the sidelines told Jerry Jones what Jerry Jones told the Dallas media and ultimately the whole NFL world. Okay, so what does that have to do with receivers? That's my question. But again, that's Jerry Jones. And then secondly, and we do have the soundbite here. So Mike McCarthy, thankfully, has recovered from COVID. He's vaccinated. I think he was actually about to get his booster not long before he got COVID. I'm sure he's obviously still going to get his booster. But Mike McCarthy's vaccinated. He's fine. He got over the virus fairly well. He seemed to have good energy about him at the Cowboys press conference earlier today. But he was taking questions from the Dallas media about about what he usually is, 20, 25-minute press conference. And a reporter asked Jerry about, their chances against Washington, right? And their preparation going into, because this is a big game against the Washington football team on Sunday, of course. If Dallas wins, they're up 3 games, and the division unofficially is theirs. They've got it wrapped. They just got to win another game to make it official. If Washington wins, it's a different story because Washington closes to within 1 game of the division. And ironically, Washington actually controls their own destiny because they play the Dallas Cowboys twice. So if Washington wins, the whole outlook on this season flips. And if you win, okay, it's like, all right, we got the division. Let's go after the playoff seeding, the best playoff seeding we can get. And let's go try and compete for a championship. We know rivalry games, heck, any NFL games, but especially rivalry games, are always bitter. You saw how hard the Steelers and Ravens competed on Sunday. Felt like a playoff game. They were going back and forth at each other's throats for 3 hours. That's how rivalry games work. We know that in any sport, but especially in the game of football. And what you don't do, and what I've talked about since literally the second ever episode of Carving It Up, it's been a theme on the show. A player or a coach has talked crap about the opponent that they're going to match up against in the coming days or weeks, and it always comes back to bite them. The most recent example I can think of is Dabo Sweeney. Remember when Dabo Sweeney last year before Clemson's playoff game against Ohio State, in which Clemson was favored, we're like, yeah, Clemson's going to win. And then Dabo Sweeney, because it was a weird COVID year, Ohio State didn't play that many games. Dabo said, Ohio State, because the coaches do their own coaches poll ranking the top college football teams. Dabo Sweeney said, I didn't have Ohio State in my top 10. They didn't play enough games. I didn't have Ohio State in my top 10. And I said at the time, Dabo, what are you doing? You've been coaching a long time. What are you doing? That was his arrogance that was speaking there. And what happened? Ohio State blew the doors off Clemson. Justin Fields had the best game of his life with a beat-up rib, too. I mean, that game was not even a contest in the second half. It was back and forth a little bit for the first 20, 25 minutes of the game. All Ohio State, all Buckeyes in the second half. Dabo Sweeney gave Ohio State a little bit of bulletin board material motivation. And so, as I have a comment here from John, he sums up perfectly. He says, the Cowboys, LOL. Yep. And this is the thing that I've always ripped coaches for doing. Mike McCarthy did it. Here you go.
We're going to win this game. I'm confident in that, and just the prep that's going into it. But more importantly, we're going to we want to improve too along the way. So I think that's all part about what the challenge of December football gives you.
We're going to win this game. I'm confident in that. Do you think they'd be taking this bulletin board material?
I mean, what am I supposed to say? Yeah, I fully expect to win every game I've ever competed in. I mean, that's what sports is all about. That's what the NFL. Trust me, I understand how hard it is. They're working hard. We're working hard. But yeah, we're clearly planning on going to Washington to win the game. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Oh my goodness. Like I said, it's ironic that the two individuals who I've always believed will hold this team back could be the team that gets Dallas in some big trouble on Sunday afternoon at Washington for what is the most important game of the season. Mike McCarthy, straight up, and he tried to downplay. When they kind of realized they made a mistake, like, oh, shoot, I shouldn't have said that. They try to I think I could win. I've always thought I could win every game I play. That's not what that is. There's a clear difference in saying we believe we can win any game we play. That's not bulletin board material. Saying he clearly said, "Here you go.
We're going to win this game."
We're going to win this game. I mean, he was pretty clear and concise. And now For those saying, oh, that's not Washington bulletin board material. Really? Jonathan Allen, who is their best healthy pass rusher in a defensive line that's really good. Montez Sweat's out for this game with COVID. And, of course, Chase Young, unfortunately, is out for the year with an injury. But Jonathan Allen, who's a great defensive tackle for the Washington football team, they asked him about Mike McCarthy's quote. Basically implying, guaranteeing that the Cowboys are going to win Sunday. You know what Jonathan Allen said? And he's right. The only guarantee in this world is death and taxes. That was Jonathan Allen's answer. Washington, to use a Michael Jordan, a Michael Jordan phrase.
It became personal with me.
They're going to take that personal. Big time on Sunday. And so I'm not feeling good about Sunday afternoon at Washington. I mean, I've always said this. If you're going to go out on a limb and guarantee a win or take a shot at your opponent, I've always said, you got every right to. But you better back it up, or the fans and the media are going to rip you. More times than not, they lose. Heck, to use a story of my Tennessee Vols, I remember 5 years ago, they were playing Florida, and listen, Florida owns Tennessee. They do. They own Tennessee. I'm not even going to try and hide behind it. They own us. But going into that game, a corner, I can't even remember his name now. Now, I can't remember what his name was, but he said that Florida Gators going to go into Knoxville and beat Tennessee. He says, that duck's going to pull that truck, whatever that means. And Tennessee took his motivation, and they beat Florida by double digits. You don't give multiple material. This is already a big game. This is already the biggest game of the season for both squads. No question. It's going to have a playoff-like feel to it. You don't give them extra motivation. Because what do you do? At this point in the season, it's December. There's not a team in the league that's fully healthy. This is football. You are running full speed into other grown men at the same time as hard as you can for 3 hours. And you're practicing all week, and you're in the weight room, you're getting treatments. At this stage in the year, the last month of the regular season, nobody's healthy. After week 1, early September, nobody's healthy. And so what you were going off of, I think it might have been Jason Taylor, the great former Miami Dolphins defensive end, he said, this stage in the year, you're running off pure adrenaline. So whatever motivation you can get, you take that and you run with it. Well, Mike McCarthy just gave the Washington football team a crap load of motivation. So the owner, Jerry Jones, the head coach, Mike McCarthy, they have both caused this team possibly long-term issues. Because now, remember we talked about LeBron, does he trust his teammates? Does he trust Frank Vogel? Do the Cowboys receivers trust that offensive coaching staff? They know. Jerry's going to say what Jerry's going to say. We really can't do anything about it. But why was Jerry's answer so very technical and specific and coach talk, quote unquote? He had to have gotten that from somebody, right? And then from Mike McCarthy, you just gave Washington extra jet fuel. And that's a well-coached team led by Ron Rivera. It's a confident quarterback in Taylor Heineke. Good skill position players, Terry McLaurin. Antonio Gibson, quietly, is this year has been the best running back in the NFC. I'm worried about Sunday. I am worried about Sunday. This is why I said Dak should have left. I said it. I said it last year. Dak needs to get out of here, but Lord have mercy. It's like I've always said about Jerry. There's owners in sports, even in the NFL, that I know, they don't care about winning. James Dolan's the first name that comes to mind. Worst owner in sports. Dan Snyder, second worst owner in sports with Washington. Ironically, the team Dallas is going to play. Dan Snyder's a horrible owner. He doesn't care about winning, right? We know plenty of it. Woody Johnson with the Jets, he doesn't care about winning. I've always said Jerry Jones cares about winning as long as it's his way. It's got to be his way. Can't do it the conventional way. Jerry Jones, to his credit, I used to rip him as a general manager. I think as a general manager, he's done a great job. I don't think he needs to hire a general manager. I mean, you see what he's done in the draft. He's drafted Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs and CeeDee Lamb. He's drafted some straight up studs for the Cowboys. He's drafted Tyron Smith. He found Dak Prescott in the 4th round. He traded for Amari Cooper. He drafted Michael Gallup in the 3rd round. He drafted Zach Martin. When people say, oh, you got to take Johnny Manziel. Where's Johnny Manziel? Where's Zach Martin? Jerry's done a heck of a job. He found Tony Pollard in the 4th round. Jerry, along with the help of Will McClay, have done a magnificent job at finding talent in the draft for the Dallas Cowboys. After that, just step away. Don't do interviews. We saw in Hard Knocks. We saw him talking to coaches. I mean, I remember there was one soundbite from Hard Knocks this summer that just said, yep, that confirms everything I've ever believed about the Cowboys, is when Mike McCarthy and Stephen Jones are on the practice field. They just concluded practice that day, and I think it was their last one before they traveled to Canton, Ohio to play the Steelers in the Hall of Fame game. So the first preseason game of the year. And so coaches are talking about, okay, who we're going to play, how long we're going to play them, what rookies, what undrafted guys, who are we going to give an opportunity to play in this preseason game. That's what it's all about. And Mike McCarthy's on the field with Stephen Jones. And Mike says, yeah, I'm thinking about not playing Zeke. Like, what's your thoughts on that? What are you thinking about that? I'm thinking, who cares what Stephen Jones thinks? He's not the head coach. You are, Mike. That's the problem with Jerry. He hires coaches that he can control. The one coach since Jimmy Johnson that Jerry hired that he couldn't control was Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells retired after 3 years. Some of that might have been his age. Some of that might have been, health and family. But I think some of that was, I can't put up with Jerry anymore. Like Jerry Jones, he ain't telling me what to do. Jason Garrett's a nice guy. Like, everybody loves Jason Garrett. And how could you not? He's one of the best human beings coaching. He's not coaching currently. He got fired. But one of the better human beings that has coached in the NFL. Jason Garrett's a good guy. He is. But Chan Gailey, I mean, come on. He can be controlled by Jerry. Mike McCarthy can be manipulated and controlled by Jerry. And that's what's always going to be the problem with this team. Barry, who is a Cowboys fan, I guess more than I am, he says, Cowboys will be fine. I'm more concerned about the injuries. What injuries? Randy Gregory's back. DeMarcus Lawrence is back. Offensively, they're healthy for the first time in years, literally years. This is the first time. I mean, Zeke's really the only significant injury offensively. Dak's fine. CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper will be better coming off of COVID. Barry says, God bless his babies and Jerry Jones. You give this man too much of a break, Barry. You give Jerry too much of a break. He is the number one reason that this team is not, forget win a Super Bowl. They have not even been to an NFC championship game in 25 years. Now, we got to bet that they'll break that streak this year. Because you're not as big on Dak as I... Actually, you're not even close to as big on Dak as I am. I said I believe Dak in the first year of his big new deal that he absolutely deserved. I said he deserved it for 2 years on this show. We finally got it. And that Dak was going to validate, at least for the first year, and get the Cowboys to the NFC Championship game. Is that still a possibility? Sure it is. But I don't feel as confident with that man running the franchise and that man opening his big mouth and the other man coaching the team and guaranteeing wins. And once again, as he's done all season long, proving that his clock management is putrid. That's why this organization's been, quote-unquote, cursed for the last quarter century. It is why the Stephen A. Smiths of the world calls them an accident waiting to happen. Is he wrong? May offend us Cowboys fans. We may not like it, but he's telling the truth. It all stems from Jerry. It always has. It always will. Jerry Jones has talked about, he's teared up. He's gotten emotional I want to win that Super Bowl. I want to hold that Lombardi trophy. I want that confetti to come from the ceiling at whatever stadium we're playing at, and I want to hold that Lombardi trophy in the air in front of our fans. Because Jerry's felt that feeling before, and you always hear about the former champions that are still playing saying, man, I'd love to feel that feeling again. Jerry Jones, hey, ball's in your court, buddy. Ball is in your court. You can, if you want to, step out of the way. Still be the owner, still be the general manager of this team. But stop with the radio interviews. He's not going to. This is in vain. But stop doing the radio interviews. It's not helping anybody. It's just giving you press. And I think, honestly, if you ask Jerry today, would he rather the Cowboys be the most valuable franchise in the world, which they are, or would he rather have the Super Bowl? I think he'd think twice before making that decision. And that is the problem. All right. Week 14 in the NFL, 2021 NFL season kicks off tonight with a game with some major playoff implications. Game kicks off about an hour and 15 minutes from now. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers, who coming off a huge season-saving win on Sunday against the Baltimore Ravens at home, taking on the Minnesota Vikings, who, I'll just put it this way, they lost to the Lions. And we know what that means. They're the only team to do that this season. So they're not in the greatest spot as a team, as an organization. And as it stands right now, Minnesota is given the slight edge. They're favored -3.5. I think there's so many factors in this game that's going to make it an incredible watch. I think it's going to be a close game, first of all. For the Vikings, Adam Thielen is out. He's got, I think it's an ankle injury. Adam Thielen is out for this game. And, as far as the health of Dalvin Cook, who's been kind of questionable all week, as it stands right now, according to Adam Schefter, Dalvin Cook will play tonight. He's got a shoulder issue. Said he'll play with a shoulder harness, according to Schefter, just as he did in a wild card game against the Saints. The expectations are, according to Adam Schefter, that he will maintain his normal workload. So they'll have their bell cow in Dalvin Cook, but Adam Thielen, who's their second best receiver and probably the best number 2 receiver in football, he's out. So to me, tonight, this is a season-defining game for the Vikings. Because when I look at their schedule moving forward, it's not a cupcake. They got the Bears after this, but then they got the Rams and the Packers, and then they finish with the Bears. They need to win this game tonight because they're not beating Green Bay in Week 17. We all know that, especially the game. It's a primetime game. Kirk Cousins don't win primetime games. And he darn sure don't win primetime games at Lambeau Field in January. So they're going to lose that game down the road. They have to win this game tonight. You look on the other end for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, Big Ben, it's kind of funny. Big Ben's old. He's done. He's going to retire after this year. I think he's even made that clear to the Steelers. He's tied for the NFL lead in game-winning drives this year. I heard that stat today. I was like, Ben? Ben? Not Lamar Jackson, not guys like Stafford or Josh Allen or Rodgers or Mahomes, Russell Wilson. No, it's been Roethlisberger. And so some of that is obviously they played more close games than some of those guys I mentioned. But still, to his credit, when the chips are on the line, when the money's on the line, he's come through for him, at least this season. And so, but I think tonight, going against a Vikings defensive line that is really good, Ben, old, hurt, immobile, short week, that's, that's somewhat of a recipe for disaster for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that hurts them a little bit. But I think it's a little bit of an ugly game for that reason, because the Vikings are missing Adam Thielen. I think this is Justin Jefferson's game to step up, prove that he is one of the best receivers in the game, as I saw another fellow podcaster post on Instagram earlier today. This is Justin Jefferson's moment. The guy is amazing. I mean, he is unbelievable. Like, CeeDee Lamb is bordering on Pro Bowler, and he's the second best receiver without a question from the 2020 draft. Justin Jefferson is as good as it gets. But what's the deciding factor? It's like I talked about last week with Georgia and Alabama. I said, I think Georgia has a better roster than Alabama. But I said, when Saban's an underdog, at the time, he was 4-1. Now he's 5-1. I said, I don't bet against Saban. This is not a situation of I don't bet against Ben. To a certain degree, it's a situation of I don't bet against Tomlin. But more than anything, it's I'm betting against Kirk Cousins. Because in these games, these big season-defining games, it's games like this that the Vikings gave him the money that they gave him. I think since 2016, no quarterback has made more money than Kirk Cousins. None. Not Brady, Rodgers, Wilson. Kirk Cousins. And so it's these games that they paid him money to come through in. And so far, save for one playoff game in New Orleans about 2 years ago, he hasn't really done that. So with that said, I don't think the Vikings will cover, and I think they will lose this game 23-18. Again, a weird score, somewhat of an ugly football game, but I trust Pittsburgh's defense. TJ Watt is without a doubt, no questions asked, right now, the defensive player of the year. He's got 16 sacks in 10 games. The guy's missed 3 games. He's got 16 sacks. Michael Strahan, watch out. I know he's, Strahan, going to space and everything. Watch out. You ain't got to worry about anything up there in space. You got to worry about TJ Watt because he might be coming to break your record soon. 16 sacks in 10 games is unbelievable. I think he's going to make a huge impact on this game. I think Justin Jefferson, has his way with the Steelers secondary, but when it all comes down to it, it's not that I trust Big Ben more than Kirk Cousins. It's just I don't trust Kirk Cousins. That's what it comes down to. So I'm going to take the Steelers to win this game and go to 7-5-1, 23-18. So the Vikings do not cover the spread. Not only do they not cover the spread, they don't even win the game. Steelers win at 23-18 to kick off week 14. This is a really good game to kick off the week because, look, it's December, playoff implications in basically every game from here on out. I can't wait. It's going to be fun. It is going to be a fun last month of the NFL regular season. This is what makes this season so great. And I think it's what made college football great this year. Like Alabama's probably the Vegas favorite to win the national title. They're the number 1 team in the playoff. But nobody's like, do I even play? Alabama's going to, like last year. Like I actually picked Ohio State to beat Bama. What was I thinking? But last year was like, Bama's better than everybody else. And the year before that, LSU is better than everybody else. What are we doing here? Why are we even having the playoff? This year, Bama's going to beat Cincinnati. Georgia, what if they make a quarterback change to JT Daniels? Michigan, you see how Michigan's playing right now? What they did to Ohio State and Iowa in back-to-back weeks? So Bama's threatened. Right now, who's the favorite? I think by an inch. As far as best team in the league, I think it's Green Bay by an inch over Arizona. But who's the team we're like, yeah, they're the favorite? Nobody. New England's the best team in the AFC. I don't trust them to beat Kansas City or Baltimore. No way. Heck, I don't even know if I trust them to beat Indianapolis the way they're playing right now. Out in the NFC, you got the Packers, you got the Cardinals. The Packers beat the Cardinals, but the Cardinals got the best record in football. Oh, yeah, there's this, obviously got the Cowboys who are having a great year. Rams, hopefully trying to get back on track. Oh, yeah, then you got this guy in Tampa who's 44 years old and is the front runner for MVP. And you got the defending champs who are 9-3 and coming for that number 1 seed, who have a big game, by the way, against Buffalo on Sunday. That'll be to me, that might be the game of the week. But with all that, long show today. I had a lot to discuss. I appreciate everybody stopping by. That is all the time we have for today's show. Be sure to catch Carving It Up tomorrow, as always, at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. If you've been listening to the Carving It Up podcast, we appreciate that. You've been listening on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Anchor, as well as wherever you listen to your podcast. So enjoy the game tonight. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Got some Week 14 picks to make. Got my upset of the week ready. Got my If I Were a Betting Man ready. I've been pretty consistent on my If I Were a Betting Man. I've been on a roll there. Not so much on my upset of the week. That's a little more difficult to predict. But there's one this week that I love. I've never been more confident in an upset of the week all year than this one. You'll have to wait to see what it is tomorrow, where I make all my picks and I'll react to tonight's game, obviously, tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right where you're watching the show, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter. Have a great evening, everybody. God bless you all. Stay safe. Peace out.